In light of Cohen's press release and his findings, why is what Christy Clark doing so wrong?
Well, it's wrong because Cohen put the health of wild salmon ahead of industrial salmon farms. And he realized we have a big problem in British Columbia. So he came out with 75 recommendations, some of which were very, very strong. And it's really a blueprint to how we recover wild salmon in British Columbia. So number one, we need the federal government to implement Justice Cohen's recommendations. Number two, the BC government still has jurisdiction over seafloor license. And right now they're making a decision in the Bredon Archipelago to renew 18 seafloor licenses for salmon farms. We have to stop that. People in British Columbia value wild salmon. It's part of our blood. It's part of what makes our coastal ecosystem hum with life. And so we're calling on Christy Clark, Premier Christy Clark. If she values wild salmon, if she's interested in what Justice Cohen had to say, then she will not renew these 18 licenses for fish farms in the Bredon Archipelago. Fish farms breed sea lice. They are incubators for disease. Everywhere that you have open net cage fish farms in the world, we have declines in wild salmon stocks because young fish become diseased when they swim by the farms. So it's very easy. It's not rocket science what needs to be done. Wild salmon need to be protected, and open net cage fish farms need to be shut down now.
It's an honor to be here today next to Melina Dawson and so many faces I've seen on the walk down island and the paddle. And what makes today even more significant is we have just received a final report from Justice Cohen into a $26 million federal inquiry into the collapse of the Fraser sockeye and the decline of wild fish. And he's made some very strong recommendations that salmon farms should be removed if there is minimal impact. We believe there's minimal impact. And also leases should not be extended for more than 1 year at a time. If at all, anybody thinks it's a good idea to sell out the seafloor of BC and effectively our wild salmon to the salmon farm feedlot industry. So I'm here today with Melina Dawson. She's in our care. Her family asked if she could come. She's from Kinkum Inlet, the Zawadinik, and I'm going to let her speak about salmon farming and what it's been doing to her community. And we have a petition to deliver as well. So here's Melina Dawson.
I know I can only speak for myself and my family, but I know that we don't think that we know that salmon farms aren't doing anything for us.
Melina's come from a very, very remote village. They had to raise money to fly her out by seaplane, so it's a long way that she's come. And it happens that I've lived in her territory for 26 years, and the salmon farming industry is extremely dangerous to the wild fish. I'm tracking 3 European viruses right now. The government forgot to tell Justice Cohen about. When he released the disease records, he actually saw symptoms of them in the farm salmon, and that's why I went searching for these viruses, and they're there. And there'll be more on this later. I'm not free to talk about it at the moment, but it's very serious, and I think we're way past minimal risk. Justice Cohen said if we find greater than minimal risk of this industry, it should cease to operate. So we're going to ring the doorbell and deliver 11,712 signatures to Premier Christy Clark, asking her not to renew the salmon farm leases, particularly in Melina's territory. They're being faced with 18 salmon farm renewals right now. The government is pressuring them and says they don't have a right to have an opinion to this because they can't show traditional use of the sea floor under the farms. So here we go. when we tried to deliver a similar petition to Gordon Campbell, he locked the door, but they're opening it. Thank you very much.
No worries. Thank you so much for presenting this. I'm sorry the Premier couldn't be here for the show. I'd just like to thank you. You guys have been incredibly respectful out here, so thank you so much. I don't even like okay. Thank you so much. See you again.
Thank you, all of you, for coming. The wild salmon people, you're everywhere, like the salmon in small groups throughout this province. And we know there's at least 11,000 of us, because there's the book that went in the door.
It's beyond comprehension why. Before the Cohen Commission report came out, that the Clayoquot Sound Fish Farm was approved for 20 years. Shame. That is awful. Yes. And now we have the Cohen Commission come out with their report, and with some 75 recommendations. Some of them were very, very strong recommendations related to open net feedlots. And Justice Cohen was very daring and courageous to cast his recommendations towards the favor of wild salmon. And so we need to honor those recommendations that he made. This is now a golden opportunity for Premier Christy Clark to take the right action, do the right thing, and not renew any of those leases. And we need to give Christy Clark, the NDP government, and any other government the message that we're not going to stop until the last feedlot is taken out of the waters of BC.
At one time, the Fraser River had 130 million of my cousins. And in that time, the forests have been destroyed. Our habitats have been conquered by mines, by pollution, raw sewage, climate change. Many more than the 75 recommendations that the humans had to write. We've seen it for thousands of years of history, but we've also seen people who have stood up for the fish. I've heard of stories from indigenous people that would not take the last fish and put it back with a blessing that more are to return. I've heard stories from all the lands of how the fish not only feed them, but they provide the nutrients for many different animals, 130 species. That includes bears, eagles, the American dipper. You name it, they've taken a piece of me. I don't mind it at all. But as we come back every fall to the cities, we once swam under this asphalt. This used to be our home. But we're still here thousands of years. We plan to come back if the humans let us. So take the wisdom that you know and all the intelligence that you've learned in your books, in your stories, and what you've seen in the rivers, and you contain a piece of me inside of you. You eat me every fall. Your rain that falls upon you is from the salmon spirits of long past. We are the ultimate form of recycling. You're breathing salmon air because we have fertilized the trees. The salmon forests are an example of biodiversity that you guys talk about. You figured out a name just recently. Mother salmon, raven and bear, they all talk about it the whole time. They just don't speak your language. If you listen to them through the indigenous peoples who've been telling the stories for thousands of years, it's a system that works. It's not made of money. It's made of the spirit of the people that live here and have a true relationship with the earth. Christmas is coming. What gift are you going to give to the salmon? Because we've been giving it for thousands of years. Well, ask Christy Clark. I can't vote. I'm a fish. There's millions of us. We don't even know what country we're from. If we could, we would vote for fish habitat, not for the destruction of it, not for pipelines, not for rage against us. So like my sockeye cousin here, be a chum to the fish. Wild salmon forever. Thank you.
Thank you. My name's Torrance Costa. I'm here with the Wilderness Committee. I'm honored to have been a part of this, along with Indigenous allies and Alexander Morton, among others. I think the biggest takeaway message here is the power that action like this has. We have to act on this on a provincial level. At a federal level, the current federal government has been one of the worst we've ever seen in terms of protecting wild salmon. Their recent legislation, particularly Budget Bill C-38, gutted habitat protection for salmon, laid off countless staff whose job it is to keep these salmon safe. They're directly prioritizing big industries like the oil industry and the salmon farming industry above the salmon, above the communities, both ecological and human, that depend on them.
Shame on them!
We need to keep making clear statements like this loudly and persistently. We need to let any governments that make decisions on this coast know that if they keep favoring these industries over this resource, that just like the salmon, their life cycles are going to come to an end very shortly.
Because my hands don't work, but my voice works. I have been to a fish farm. I went with an open mind because one must have an open mind. And what I saw was a lie. They told me that they can create safe fish on their safe fish farm and create more flesh and safe flesh, and all they had was pollution. Those fish were so thick, they pulled dead bodies from the masses, and the effluent is so deadly, the smell is so awful, the color that they add is a poison.
Shame!
It is an awful thing. I went with an open mind and I left knowing we must stop the fish farms.
Dear Premier, Ms. Clark, I have only one thing I wanted to say. I'll make it brief. Listen to your constituents while they are your constituents. Thank you.
We'd like to take a photo and record this moment in time so that people who are fighting salmon farms on the east coast of Canada can see that they're not alone over there. People who are fighting in Norway and Chile and Scotland, in the United States, in every single place in this world where this industry has gone and caused destruction, that they are not alone, and that this is also a call out to the rest of the people in the province and across Canada. Don't eat farm salmon. Don't bring it home. It's got viruses in it. It's killing our wild stocks.
We are part of all of life. We are part of this earth. The beat that drums the beat in these drums is the same beat in our hearts. The beat in the four-leggeds is the same beat that beats in our hearts. We are not separate. And the silence of the earth is so loud for those of us who are listening. But for those who have deaf ears, who cover their ears and their eyes, We must speak out.
I came here especially because of my niece. She's been a big inspiration to many of us. But I'm also here for the defenseless fish and all of the other creatures in the ocean. It's not only salmon that are dying. And let me tell you, I'm dying. Let me tell you, my people are dying. I had a bypass open heart surgery this summer. Thank you, Christy Clark. Thank you, Harper, for killing me. But I'll tell you, I'm still kicking. And as long as I can wheel around in my chair, you'll find me where I can go and have the privilege of being. If it wasn't for the fish, I might not be here today. If it wasn't for the precious oleander, I might not be here today. In my estimation, DFO stands for dumb foreigners who don't have a clue about our ocean, about the ecosystem, the environment, the air we breathe. We have to care. It doesn't matter what race or what color we are. We're all going to be decimated if we are not careful. The idiots that tell us there is no climate warming are dunces with their heads up their butts, and they can keep them there as far as I care. They have not proven one darn thing except how ignorant they are, and that includes people like Harper, who allows foreigners into our precious waters to come and foul everything up. You know, hundreds of years ago, I came from the ancestors of the Musqueam are noted for their strength and courage, but they're not only noted for strength and courage, they're noted for their generosity, their hospitality. And let me tell you, Clark and Harper, our generosity and hospitality, the door slams in your face when you start tampering with our waters and our food. Look out, because I'll tell you, we'll do what we have to defend our fish and all of the creatures in the ocean that are defenses. If it's not oil, it seems you're greedily grasping for foreign funds from Norway or wherever. Learn a lesson from the Scots. Learn a lesson from all the other countries where they've decimated and destroyed their environment in the ocean because of greed. Learn from those people. I know the state of Washington, thank God, watch us like hawks. They do not trust a thing we do with our fish or our water, and I can't say I blame them. And believe me, I'm far from being pro-American, but I'm with them in terms of the fish.
Markets. I just tested Whole Foods yesterday. I've tested markets in the United States, Costco's fish, and we'll be letting them know what viruses.
Costco's, geez, you look in there and that stuff glows in the dark.
The superstore too.
You can see where the rings in the flesh, it is all farm salmon. It's just nuts.
Oh yeah, it is, totally is. The main call is for Christy Clark not to be the landlord of the salmon farming industry any further. I would go so far as to say BC is the slumlord of this industry, because while the federal government is managing the industry, it's the province who decides where the farms go and therefore where the impact is happening and which stocks are being destroyed.
Now this is exactly one of Justice Cohen's recommendations, is to separate out the promotion of fish farms from the protection of fish habitat. Is that part of the call today as well?
For me, government's irrelevant at this point, and unless except in a case like this where they're trying to get reelected. The DFO has so compromised themselves on this industry. They hid the salmon flu virus from the Cohen Commission, from the Stolo people. But in this case, where it's Premier Clark who would like to get reelected or have somebody that gets reelected in her party, she better really look at this industry. It is a dirty, filthy, old industry. These are the only farmers that do not shovel their manure, and they're using the waters of Kinkum Inlet as a sewer, and the people of the area don't want it. She cannot renew those leases.
Yeah. Now, as a scientist, what do you make of Cohen's conclusions that there isn't enough evidence yet about disease transfer?
He's right, and that's why I am spending the last 12 months and every day of my life getting him that evidence. DFO has been shameful in their lack of study on this. But Cohen said an interesting thing. Prior to Cohen, I had to prove that fish farms were having a population impact on wild salmon. Cohen reversed that. He said, if they have greater than minimal impact, they should cease to operate it. Thank you, sir. Because these farms are definitely having greater than minimal impact. I'm tracking 3 European viruses that government is completely denying. This is a cover-up, and I am going to reveal it with science. And Cohen was very helpful because he said, if there's science done by independent researchers, that has to be looked at too, and that's what I'm doing.
No, that's all my questions, unless there's anything else you wanted to add.
I would like to know what the NDP position is on this, because we got all the salmon farms with the NDP, and they've made a lot of noises that they might do something about this industry. I want to know exactly what it is.
After what Cohen said in his press conference, why would be renewing these leases so long?
It's so wrong because he's finding that this industry is having serious or irreversible harm. He is saying that if risk is greater than minimal, that these farms need to cease to operate. This is not an industry that you need to be renewing their leases. This is an industry that needs to be winding down. The government needs to offer compensation package to the people of this industry, because this is government's mistake. This is a messy, sloppy, dirty industry. It's not even doing well on the stock market. The product has flooded the market in the world. All of these companies are posting big losses this quarter and the last few quarters. So it's time to wind this thing down, and let's restore our wild salmon.
Why is the government resisting this?
The government is a dinosaur. They don't hear the people. I'm not even sure we live in a democracy anymore. I mean, that's what we're really testing out here. But I'm here to support Kinkum Village because 18 salmon farm renewals are up right now, and the Clark government is the slumlord of this industry. Are they really going to force this thing on these First Nations people who are saying no? What benefit can this government show us that this industry is actually done? Let's see the money that this industry is making. It's highly mechanized. It's filthy. The cleanup for this would be enormous. I mean, if you looked at that waste that's on the bottom, and now with these 3 viruses I'm tracking, you cannot put that genie back in the bottle. You can't turn these viruses off. All you can do is close down the source of it, where it's spewing out, shut that down. Wild salmon will deal with it, and that's our only hope. But for government to be hiding this and then to actually give renewals to this industry, I mean, they didn't even wait for the Cohen Commission. They gave Plover Point 20-year license. That's wrong. They are not going to get reelected on this.
I'm here today because the wild salmon need our voice, and they're not getting it. But Justice Cohen has made some strong recommendations. He wasn't allowed to find fault with anyone, but his recommendations speak loud and clear that the damage from the fish farms may be already irreversible, and that speaks loudly as to what we need to do. And renewing leases is not what we need to do. We need to get the fish farms out. They're full of disease, they're full of lice, and the lice are becoming drug resistant, and it's time to get them out now.